Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Liverpool Transfer Show on Football Tour Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. After a disappointing result yesterday, it's time for Liverpool to move on and focus on the next game, I guess, which is against Bournemouth. But until then, what we'll do, we'll speak about some transfer developments that have pretty much happened today. Nothing, huge or any bombers or anything to that nature, but definitely worth discussing as it should hopefully give us an indication of what areas the squad will be improved before the window closes. And hopefully, we'll get some new additions in the coming days and weeks. So, let's start with the first transfer rumor, and that is regarding Rodrygo. So, there's no secret that he has been a target for Liverpool in the last few weeks, but there seems to be another team that are in the mix now, and that is Man City. So in terms of Man City, I'm going to present a tweet that was presented by uh, Fabrizio today. So in terms of Fabrizio, this was his tweet from earlier on. So Man City are considering a move for Rodrigo after imminent exits. Grealish pretty much gone, which we'll speak about very shortly. McAtee and Savinho can leave, and Man City see Rodrigo as a dream target. Guardiola is a big fan. Rumors will let him leave if player wants the move, and they are asking for around 100 million euros, which is roughly around 87.5 million. So in regards to that tweet, um, it's an interesting one because he's definitely a player that is not happy about his current situation at the club, where he's not getting enough game time and he's not being played in his favorite position, which is on the left wing. So after being at Real Madrid for a few years, maybe due to that frustration, he feels like he could move on and pursue his career elsewhere, where he'll be given the platform to play in his favorite position, but also play for a team that will be challenging for major honors. And Man City are definitely one of those teams, and I do feel like the appeal of joining Pep Guardiola, is definitely going to be a defining factor. So for some reason, I can see this move happening, if I'm being brutally honest. To see Grealish being linked with Everton uh, blows my mind because let's not forget he was signed for 100 million pounds not so long ago, 2, 3 years ago, and now he's being linked with a move to Everton on loan with a option to buy him. I think the fee is 50 million pounds. Look how the mighty have fallen. He was regarded as the next big thing, according to some media outlets and some English football fans as well. I thought he was a decent player, but I never thought he would be anything to that kind of level. Um, I always felt like when that bid came in for Grealish, Aston Villa were just licking their lips or, pretty much gobsmacked by that bid because they had a release because they thought never would be matched. And they literally came in, brought the briefcase of £100 million and signed the player. But now, unfortunately, his career has gone downhill. Last year, he was very sort of limited in terms of his appearances, and due to that, for him, in order to get back into that England conversation, he needs to get first team football. So that's why he's moving over there. So on paper, he's not really the first choice on the left wing, but one player is Savinho, and apparently he's been linked with a move to Tottenham. For Tottenham, that's a great coup. Although I feel like for me, whenever I've seen Savinho play, I feel like his best position is on that right wing, but they've already got Kudus there, so maybe he's a player on the left wing option, which he could still work because he still has a lot of quality, but I feel like you know maybe a different profile would have made sense for Tottenham. But back to this current topic here. It feels like the pathway is there for Man City to make the signing. With Grealish out, Savinho on the verge of leaving as well, they don't really have too many left wing options in their squad, and it is kind of public knowledge that Man City, or should I say Real Madrid, would like to sell the player, if they got the right bid. I think 100 million euros, which is around 87.5 million, um, is within their price range. Of course, it is. It's Man City after all, but I do feel like it's a player that they'll pursue very, very highly. Does it change the impact of the upcoming season? Does that put them ahead of Liverpool in the favourites category of winning the Premier League? I don't think so. I still feel like Liverpool are the front runners. Obviously, he definitely adds quality to their squad and as a slight fear factor as well because of what he's achieved at Real Madrid. But I still feel like Liverpool have the better squad. So let's see what happens. But I feel like some Liverpool fans will be quite disappointed with this rumor because they wanted Rodrygo to join Liverpool. So let me know in the chat, are you one of those fans? Are you disappointed that he could be joining Man City? Do you feel like Liverpool should go above and beyond and try and get the Brazilian winger? Feel free to let me know in the chat. Before we move on to the next rumor, just going to read some of the comments. From Ozan Kabak says, Yo, Ozzy, big up Ozan Kabak. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for tuning in. He said, bro, so many fans online are actually saying we're weakened instead of strengthening this window. I'm not one of them. We had this discussion yesterday as well. If you're looking at the current squad, yes, I get it to an extent because we haven't replaced certain players in the squad, i.e., we haven't replaced Diaz, we haven't replaced Nunes, nor have we replaced Kwanzaa in the squad. So those are the gaps, that would give you a bit of concern going into the new season. But let's not forget, guys, the window doesn't end today. We've got about 3 more weeks to you know find the solutions to our squad. So we just got to hang tight a little bit. Let the guys at FSG do their magic. Let Richard Hughes go through his phone book and dial up the numbers and try and get those deals over the line. We've still got plenty of time, so let's not lose focus on what has been for me one of our best windows ever. And I feel like people are not looking at that anymore just because we haven't made a signing in the last 2 3 weeks. So people are you know thinking it's not been great. It's been one of our best windows, and I'll say that out loud. I really think it has. So um, fans just need to be a bit patient. Honestly, I think the defeat yesterday, a lot of fans crashed out. If you watched me yesterday, I wasn't one of them, but I see a lot of fans online crashing out. Seeing content creators in the same limelight as well. I think it's an overreaction. I really do. Yes, no one likes to lose. I'm not going to be him. Oh yeah, it is what it is. Like, of course, I was annoyed that we lost him. No one likes to lose, but it is a glorified preseason friendly. Let's not kid ourselves. If you look at our Champions Wall at at the AXA Training Center, we don't have a Charity Shield segment. There is no how many times we won the Charity Shields because there is no connection there. There's no sort of importance for that title because it's not really a title. It's just a glorified preseason game where you've got the champions versus the FA Cup winner, and that's all it is. So no, I feel like a lot of fans went a bit overboard. But look, let's see how it goes. Once we start playing to our real sort of capability, and once we start the season in a positive light, the tone will change for a lot of fans. I'm very, very much sure of that. Um, I was like saying our starting 11 is good, but bench depth is not up to par. At this stage, yes, I agree. It's not quite up to par because we're missing a centre back, we're missing a striker, and we're missing a winger in that sort of 9 substitutes that you're able to list. Because yesterday we had to put Rio, Trey Leoni, and Ben Doak. So of course, if you're upgrading those players, then of course it looks like a more of a solid bench, doesn't it? So we just have to wait and see, who Liverpool are able to reinforce. I think we'll get Isak. I'm still a strong believer. I know a lot of fans aren't on that boat anymore. I believe we'll get Isak. I believe we'll get Marc Guehi, and I feel like we will get one more attacker. I would love for it to be Barcola, but I don't think he's available. So we'll have to look at a different option elsewhere. But for me, we've got to keep faith in what FSG are doing because they've, for me, surpassed a lot of expectations in terms of the players they've acquired. And because of that, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they will address the positions that need to be looked at into the squad because we won't just sell players for the sake of it. They will be replaced, but they won't be replaced by anyone either. They'll be replaced by high caliber players. So let's see what happens. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm still very positive of Liverpool. in terms of what this season is going to be, and I'm very much sure that we will have a great season coming up. So yeah, keep the hope alive, I would say. Stuart, speak out yourself. He says Liverpool are no longer favourites. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. Okay, if that's how you feel, I still think Liverpool are favourites. So if Man City get Rodrygo, they become favourites. If Man United get Belieber and PSG go, we become fifth favourites because Chelsea and Arsenal teams are currently stronger than us. I think that's a bit wild. I'm not gonna lie to you. Just because United get Belieber, they've automatically picked us over as favourites. That doesn't make sense. I know they're linked to Donnarumma, but I don't think he would join Man United. I think if he was to come to the Premier League, for some reason, I feel like he'd go to a team like Chelsea or he'd return back to Italy. So I don't see, that being an issue. If they do get Belieber and Donnarumma, of course, I think they'll be a lot more stronger than what they currently are. They will be challenging for a European spot. At least I think. I don't think they'll be challenging for the title. They've got a lot more reinforcements to make in that squad. They're not the complete team. So I'm a little bit surprised that you put us at fifth favourites, um, below Chelsea and Arsenal. But that is your opinion. I don't agree with that at all. Uh, Olden Kabak says, I don't mind being underdogs. Let City and Arsenal be favourites. Yeah, if that's how people see it, I don't really, care about that because for me, as a football fan, I will analyze the squads, and that's why I said to you guys, once the window closes, please make sure to tune into that show that I do after the window because that's the one where I go through each squad, give you my assessment, and then I'll give you a prediction of what I see the Premier League table looking at 1 year later on. Um, but yeah, for me, I don't look at us. I don't see our squad as a weak squad. I don't know why that's being branded around. I'm quite confused by it, if I'm being honest with you. I saw so many positives yesterday. Just look at the game. If those mistakes weren't made by Van Dijk or whoever you want to put the blame on, those were individual areas that led to those moments, right? If you put those to one side, Liverpool were by far the best team. Crystal Palace didn't really, you know, present that much of a threat on us in goal. Allison barely made that many saves. He made that one block against Mateta, and then that's pretty much it. So I don't know what's happened. The fans are clashing out. I don't know if it's rival fans getting to people's heads, thinking, the pressure's on us. Rival fans are like, you must win the league because you're signing all these players. Just focus on your own team. Don't worry about what other people have to say about us. You're on the boat right now. This is your team. This is for you to look at, assess, and give your thoughts on. Don't follow outside noise. Outside noise will always be BS. Let's be honest with you. When it comes to rival fans talking about Liverpool, it doesn't matter what Liverpool do. It will always be put down to one level on the pedestal where you're not good enough, or you haven't done this, or if you've won 3 cups, you haven't won the official treble. Like it's always going to be something, to paint that negative narrative on Liverpool. So don't feed off people like that. Honestly, like I've done content for such a long time now that I don't even listen to outside noise. So for me, it's just a lot of nonsense. You guys are, smart enough to know if we have a good squad or not. If you don't feel like it, that's your opinion. I'm looking at the squad. I'm seeing improvements in our areas. So the players that we've signed, they are upgrades on the players that we've sold or upgraded within the squad. So for me, there is no sort of reason as to think what we've weakened our squad just because we haven't addressed certain positions where we haven't found the replacements as of yet. Doesn't mean the club are not doing work behind the scenes. I am pretty sure the club are trying to finalize deals for a defender, for an attacker. So this happens every year. United buy all these players, and people are, oh, United are back. Oh, they're gonna do the business. They never do. So let's learn from history. Just because you buy players doesn't mean it makes your team stronger. We've bought players on the basis that they are going to improve us as a team. And yesterday was evidence of that. Tsimikas performed really well yesterday. Frimpong was very good, scored a goal himself. Verts looked majestic on the ball. I don't care what anyone says. I was very impressed with how he performed. Ekitike showed his quality as a striker. So why are we not, feeding off the positives here? The signings we've made have made us into a better team. So I don't know. I feel like there's been an overreaction within the fan base. It's a little bit annoying, but it's part and parcel of the game, isn't it? So Everyone's entitled to their opinions, but I don't agree with a lot of it, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Stewart says the window is not a big window. If net worth of our transfer is less than 100 million, we sold more than we brought in and watch opposition strength and catch up. What makes you say we have less than 100 next net spend right now? We've sold a lot of players. Let's not forget that. Well, we've got money in the bank because we've won trophies. We've won the Premier League. We haven't spent money for the last 18 months. So we have a lot of finances to go out and buy these players. Like, let me put it this way. We can actually go out and get Isak, get Barcola, and get Guehi if we really wanted to. Like, we have the financial capacity to sign all three of these players. It's just that, it's not FIFA. We're not playing a computer game. You can't just buy these players because you make the bid. There's, real human beings involved. That maybe they don't want to move, or, they're in a situation where they're happy at their current club. So we have to look at those situations. But we have the money, we have the affordability to sign these players. So I'm not sure, why the narrative is that we can't go out and spend these players. Why are United spending all of this money? Where has that money come from? Have they won trophies? No, they haven't. They've done it based on business partnerships that they have at the club, or the revenue that's been generated through shirts sales, or however they make their money. So let's not, forget about what Liverpool have done over the years. We are a very well-run club. Financially, whether you are FSG on FSG out, it's irrelevant in this case, in my opinion. This season, they've actually backed us. They've actually spent money on the squad, and they are reinforcing every area that will help us be that complete squad and help the team challenge for years to come. So I can't say anything negative about them this year, probably for the first time ever, because they've actually backed, the coach, they backed Arne Slot, and I feel like they're going to continue to back him by the end of the window. So once we sign those players, I'm so positive and I'm so sure that people's narrative will change, and they'll be like, oh, you know what, we do have a great squad, like it's just going to be like, why were you guys like so erratic about it? Like, have a level of patience. We've still got more weeks left. Let us sign those players. Once we get those players, then look, if we've got the same squad by the end of the window, then come at me. Then we can do a calling show if required. And then you can voice me in terms of what you thought of the transfer window, because right now I know the club are working behind the scenes. I'm very certain that we will address certain positions. But if we haven't, there's the conversation we're having. But right now, the window hasn't closed yet, guys. We've still got 3 weeks left. So let's just, relax a little bit. Let's just be a bit more patient now. We've signed a lot of players. Just because we've done our business very early doesn't mean we're falling behind. Clubs are signing players now. We've been signing players since May, June. Like, I was going through the videos that I made in the last couple of months. I was doing videos about Verts in late May, like early June. Like, that's how much, of an emphasis was that we're trying to get Verts over the line. So, let's not kill ourselves. Just because we've done great business early on doesn't mean we're not going to end that season in that way as well. So yeah, we'll see in terms of how the window will end. But let's just wait 3 more weeks and then we can talk about it. Until then, Delusi is a big man. Ozzy, give me something positive because I'm not feeling good about this squad. Pick me up, bro. Like I just said, I just went on a bit of a rant there, but just patience. I think the club are doing the works um, in the back to try and acquire those players. And I think, by the end of the window, we should have a striker through, we should have an attacker, and we should have a centre back. I think that's the minimum. So I'm a strong believer that we will have 3 more players added to the squad. I would love for it to be 2 centre backs. I just don't know if that's going to happen. It could do. You never know. You can't put it past it, because we are strongly linked with 2 centre backs, which we will talk about later in the show. But right now, I don't think we should be. I know we're not hearing too much positive in terms of developments for certain players, but just wait and see. I feel like it only takes a moment for us to change our opinion all of a sudden. Where if Fabrizio Romano drops a bomber saying, "Oh, Liverpool have agreed a deal with Isak," then the mood changed instantly, right? So it's just that we're feeling a bit down because of the defeat yesterday. That's not helped. So fans are not feeling very upright right now, or not feeling positive. But I'll just say be patient. Hopefully, Liverpool will address those positions in the coming weeks. Stuart says, Baliba, Sesko, Cunha, and Mbuemo and PSG goalkeeper, that's Donnarumma, can turn Stoke City an EPL contender if used well, let alone Man United. If United don't content with the window they are having, then sack the coach. The players you mentioned, the only players that I get it, that in terms of Cunha, solid season last year, but I don't know if he's gonna be able to sort of discover that kind of form in the United shirt. And Bremer, yeah, decent player as well. PSG goalkeeper in terms of Donnarumma, of course, he would be a huge coup if they were to sign him. It would be a crazy upgrade in terms of what they have. Sesko, I don't rate him, so that's just my honest opinion on him. Belieber, good player, but I don't know if they have the funds to spend 100 million. Just because they're linked to it doesn't mean it's going to happen. So these players, these are not world beaters in my opinion. The only player that's at that level would probably be Donnarumma. He's the player that would be in that world class category, in my opinion. I think he's a very high caliber goalkeeper. Mbemo, good player. Cunha, good player. Sesko, average at best, and I'm being polite there. And Belieber, good player with potential, but not quite. We don't know if he's going to go to that next level yet, but has the potential to do so. So for me, um, they're not a team. They're not a crop of players that transform this team. Now, if you present my signings or Liverpool signings to that list, then they're the players that will transform other teams. Florian Wirtz, one of the best number 10s in world football. Let's not kid ourselves. Ekitike, one of the most promising strikers in world football right now. You've got Kerkez, had a fantastic season for Bournemouth last year. One of the best left backs in the league. Frimpong, a player that is versatile, can play right back, right wing, right mid, is electric on the ball, has decent crossing ability, can score a fluky goal here and there. He did one yesterday. So these players have already transformed Liverpool right now. So gotta have more faith. And I feel like we kind of get caught up with the transfers where we see clubs signing players. Like, look how many players Chelsea would sign. Have any of them been a success? No, they haven't. No one's been a success at Chelsea. So the players over the years for United, there were times where United was signing Di Maria, Pogba, Zlatan, big names. What did they do? What did they achieve? Nothing. So just because they're signing big names, it doesn't mean it equals to success. Because United have not been successful for a very long time. So it's all good and well signing big names, but if they don't fit into the profile or the philosophy of the coach, it doesn't make sense. So I'm impressed with Liverpool's recruitment. And I'm not saying it from a biased pair of eyes. I'm looking at the other squads around us, and I think Man City have signed some good players. Still have a bit of work to do. If they sign Rodrygo, it makes their squad a little bit more complete. But there's still areas of weakness in terms of that defensive position, in my opinion. And Arsenal, they've added some good players to the squad, but are they going to gel? Is Gyökeres going to be that gunman that they want? Only time will tell. But they have strengthened. I don't think they've strengthened largely in comparison to Liverpool. And Chelsea, they have so many players. It's hard to keep track who's going to be on their first 11. So, João Pedro looks very impressive. Looks a good signing there. But other than that, who else looks an impressive signing for Chelsea? He's the only one in my eyes. So, we're naming all of these teams that are signing names, but have they improved? No, they haven't, in my opinion. So let's see. Once the window closes, then we can have those kind of conversations. Students asking when is the calling show. So I look, because of this conversation we're having, we'll definitely have a calling show at the end of the window. Let me have a look at my calendar. So correct me if I'm wrong. The last day of the window, I'm just gonna Google it, is the first, isn't it? Closing day. Let me have a look. It's the 1st of September. So that's a Monday. So in that week, we'll definitely have a show. Maybe on the Tuesday or on the Wednesday, we'll have a show, and then we'll talk about our opinion about the transfer window or Liverpool's transfer window more so because I'm a Liverpool content creator, so that's my main focus more than anything else. And then you can give me your opinion. Have Man United have had a better window than us? Have Arsenal? Have Chelsea? Have Man City? You can feel free to call in and have your opinion. And then yeah, of course, when I do calling shows, everyone is more than welcome. So if you want to have a say, feel free to jump on, and then we can have that discussion. So yeah, I'll definitely do a transfer window wrap up sort of show, and then we can all have that discussion. So yeah, hopefully it should be an exciting show. Delusive said it appears that Isak won't be signing this window. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna keep that hope alive and say that he will join in the end. I don't. I feel like Newcastle are just being so difficult right now, and they just want to get those players through the door before they're even willing to do business about Isak. That's the hold up right now in my eyes. So we'll see. We've still got 3 more weeks, so I've still got a bit of hope. I'm still optimistic that we'll get Isak in the end. So said if Isak doesn't sign, it would be a shame after all the drama. I agree with that. He said next year other clubs will come for him. Imagine City, Chelsea, Real Madrid, PSG, and Barca coming for him. Not necessarily, because if you look at their teams, they've already addressed their striker position. So PSG, unless someone leaves like a Dembele or Barcola or a Due, I don't expect them to add another striker on top of the four players that they already have. Real Madrid potentially, you can't rule it out, but we on the basis that Vinicius Junior leaves. He was supposed to leave this window, apparently, according to some. He was supposed to move over to Saudi, and that would have opened, the door for a striker to come in, because then Mbappe would have been able to play as a left-sided player. But right now, that doesn't appear to be the case. And even if Rodrygo leaves, you know, they could sign a striker, but it's not going to be an Isak caliber. It's going to be someone that's more of a versatile forward. That's the profile I think they'd go for in the end. And in terms of the other teams you've mentioned, Chelsea, they can probably, stump up the cash somehow, but it won't be needed because they've got so many strikers. They've got about three, four strikers in their squad. Real Madrid, as I mentioned, Barcelona, they don't have the money to spend on Isak. Let's be honest. They, they fizzled out regards to any interest for Luis Diaz. So they don't have money to acquire players like that. So no, I don't think that will be the case. I think the player clearly wants to move to Liverpool. So if he's not available now, he'll be available in January, and Liverpool will still be in the queue. If he's available next summer, Liverpool will still be in the queue. It doesn't change our narrative. That's the guy we've regarded as the one for us. So we're going to, wait and make sure he comes over to Liverpool in the end. So I feel like Isak will join, and I'm still positive that he will join in this window. Stuart says, if we have money, why aren't we signing other players while Newcastle make up their mind? If Liverpool are only going to sign other players, if Isak deal collapse, only Isak won't be enough. So in regards to why we're not signing other players is because the focus is on Isak. That's the bigger deal right now. But I also believe the club are speaking to Crystal Palace regarding Marc Guehi, but we're not on the same page in terms of the valuation of the player. So if we're not on the same page, that requires further discussions, further negotiations. So we're pretty much talking on two deals right now. That's how I'm envisioning in my head. And there are links with a Leoni as well. Maybe we've got another set of committee or employees over there to get that deal over the line. So I feel like Liverpool are doing the work in the background. We're not just sitting there, admiring what we've done so far. I know that the club are trying to address those positions. So just because the players haven't been made official doesn't mean there's no money there. We are discussing, we are negotiating with these players, their agents, and their clubs. So if a deal's not agreed, you're not just spending money, are you? You have to agree a deal, and then the money will come through, and then that's when you know you spent money on a player. We're still in the discussion stage. We're still negotiating. Once those things are finalized, that's when the money will be spent. So we have the money. Nunes has just gone for about £50 million. Diaz has gone for £65 million. That's 115 million pounds. Swansea went for 35. So how is it that we've got no money all of a sudden? That's 150 million pounds altogether. Elliott is leaving. Elliott's going to go for about 40 million. Tsimikas probably going to go about 10 million. That's another 50. That's 200 million. I've just named you five players. The money is there. I don't know why we're not looking at the bigger picture. The money is there. It's just that we haven't got the deals done yet. We're still in negotiation. So I don't know why the narrative is that we have no money. We have money. So I don't know why fans are feeling like Liverpool aren't doing anything. This is not FIFA, guys. Deals take some time to, get done, especially Isak, with those kind of deals, you know, maybe we've, set the expectations too high now because I feel like with the Vert deal, kind of happened quite quickly. I'm not gonna lie. That I thought those kind of deals take a long time to finalize, but it was quite clear that the player wanted to leave. But the difference between Wirtz and Isak is that Wirtz had communicated with Leverkusen that he wanted to leave this summer. So he spoke to them last year and said, "Look, if I'm going to give you guys one more season, and then if we get an offer, then I'd like to leave." And then Bayern Munich was supposed to go for him. Man City were front runners, but we probably picked both of them and got the man in the end because of the project that we have, because of what Arne Slot presented to him, and because of that, that's why we were able to get that deal done very smoothly. Leverkusen weren't, being troublesome. They weren't blocking the moves or messing around with the transfer fee. They were very much aligned with us because also, let's not forget, they wanted Kwanzaa, so they had to keep good relations. So Newcastle, if you believe what you hear, Richard Hughes and Eddie Howe are supposed to be boys. So right now, they're kind of just letting their mate find the replacements, and then we'll get that deal done. That's the vibe I'm getting from it, where we know that there is a number there that is not publicly known, but there is a number that if we match them for that bid, Newcastle are like, all right, fine, we'll talk business. That's your guy now. Let's talk. But right now, they're struggling to sign players. We've signed players. They are struggling. They can't get anyone right now. I might be available for them at some point because they can't sign a striker. So, it's come to a point where they can't attract anyone. And that's their problem. But Liverpool are being too nice. We're like, all right, fine, we'll give you a bit of time to get that deal done. But for me, we have to be aggressive. That's what I said to you a few days ago, guys. I feel like this week, if there's no movement in terms of Newcastle finding replacements, we need to be aggressive and just smack that 130 bid and say, look, we're talking business now. We want Isak right now. Like, let's get the deal done. You can use that money to sign whoever you want, but I'm not going to wait on you guys to find your replacements because you're taking a long time to finalize deals. Players are, you know, looking at you guys, but not really saying anything to you. So for me, that's a Newcastle problem, not a Liverpool problem. We have the cash, we've got the briefcase, we've got the money, so we can just come over there and make that bid. But I think Liverpool are just making sure they're not doing it aggressively because they don't want to ruin relations, and so and so forth in that regard. So it's frustrating. I get it. I'm frustrated as well, but I know how business works. I know these deals don't happen overnight. Despite what you see on transfer deadline, those deals are fast tracked just to get the important documents over the line, and then they'll start doing the little details afterwards, if that makes sense. So yeah, we have to be patient. We've still got 3 weeks left. We've had a decent preseason. Yesterday's defeat, it wasn't nice, but I feel like there was a little positive to take. So for me, we have to be a bit optimistic. We've got a game coming up this Friday, first game of the season against Bournemouth, so a lot to look forward to. So yeah, we just got to be patient in regards to transfers coming up. Mazzy, big up Mazzy, says Aussie, there are reports Federico will be staying for this season. How do you feel about it? If that is the case, I'm not too mad about that because personally, I rate Chiesa. I really like the player, and I hope he shows a true representation of himself this year. And when I say that, I want to see you know the levels he produced years ago, where Chiesa was playing for Juventus, in his prime, and playing for the Italian national team a few years back. That's the kind of caliber of a player I want to see in a Liverpool shirt. Whether he's able to produce that level of performances again remains to be seen because, of course, he's picked up some serious injuries over the years. Um, but I think it makes sense to have him because you've got an experienced attacker who's versatile that can cover left wing, right wing, striker role, even number 10 if required. So, it's worth having him in the squad. But at the same time, that's my opinion. From what I've seen with Arne Slot, it doesn't seem like he favors the player. So that would be my slight concern. Why has he not been sold? It's clear that Arne Slot doesn't favor the attacker. He didn't take him to Asia on tour, left him at Liverpool. So there must be a reason as to why he did that. Maybe I'm looking at it in a different. Maybe that was communicated to say, look, you picked up a slight knock, which he did apparently, and because you picked up a knock, we don't want to risk you. Stay at Liverpool. Train, rehabilitate, and then once we're back, we can hit the ground running and go from there. So maybe that was communicated, and that will definitely make the player feel a bit more, valued, in that regards. But from the outside, from what we saw last season, it doesn't look like he was, a player that had Arne Slot's faith, and that's why he wasn't utilized enough. So if that has changed and Arne Slot believes in the player and would like to utilize him more next season, then I'm all for it. I rate Fraser, but for me, if he's not, valued by the coach, there's no point in having him. It's as simple as that. But we'll see what happens. I would like him to stay, but I don't know. I don't know. Of course, he can help. Maybe um, help a Leoni. Come into the club and help him settle in. So that could be a point. In terms of keeping him for the next 3 year. But let's see. The reports are always conflicting for Rodrygo. 1 week he's leaving, 1 week he's staying. So once the season closes, we'll have some sort of clarification. Stuart says like and subscribe. Gotta big up yourself, Stuart. Thank you for your comment. Stuart says our owners are misses. Let's be honest. Why would they bid 110 for Isak instead of 120? I don't know. Like, what's to suggest that we're not going to bid more than 120? From what I heard, we were willing to spend 130 on him. So um, I don't know in terms of finances. We haven't made an official bid, despite what you've heard. Like there hasn't been an official bid. There was rumors that we were close to or we were on the verge of submitting a bid, but they weren't willing to talk business. So I feel like Liverpool, regardless, will beat that British transfer record, which will be over 115 million. So I'm thinking minimum 120 million plus add-ons, and I think it will equal to 130. I think that will be the magic number to get Isak through the door. Well, we'll have to wait and see. There's nothing to suggest that it will or will not happen. It's 50-50. That's literally how it is. That's how transfers are normally. So we'll have to wait and see. Mazzy says Aussie LFC fans need to have patience. Liverpool will make a few more big signings. Obviously, we've sold too many players, so we need a few top signings. Exactly. When you sell these kind of players, if we're just signing any Tom, Dick, or Harry from the Premier League, those deals are easy to muster. But Liverpool are trying to get right quality into the squad, players that are better than what we had previously. So the players that we sold, we're trying to upgrade in those positions. So for me, we have to be patient, guys. Honestly, if we get the Bombers this week, the tone is going to change. I'm telling you. But fans aren't really thinking that way. They're in the moment right now, and they're feeling a little bit disappointed. You know, rightly or not, I feel like you have to always look at things a bit more positively. I've been impressed with what they've done so far, and I think they will continue to impress us as the window gathers pace and ends up, closing in a few weeks' time. Stuart says, "Why not see Chiesa? Why not see Chiesa? Isn't of Diaz and Nunes. Slot is trying to build his own team and sell out the players he met. Selling players when their players aren't through the door is very foolish. It's hard to sign players and then sell the players if that makes sense. Like you have to sometimes you have to sell players to get money and for you to buy another player if that makes sense. Very rarely do we just buy players and then we kick the player out, straight away. That doesn't always happen. With Verts, he was an addition to our squad. He wasn't replacing anyone directly as such. On paper, I guess when Elliott leaves, he would be regarded as his replacement, but technically he's not because Elliott covered right wing. So for me, Verts is an addition to our squad. Frimpong replaced Trent. Trent left because he didn't agree on a new contract, so he left first. Perkez, he has been added to the squad on top of what we currently have. Ekitike was sold to replace Gio Jota, I guess, on paper. But I'm from a tactical, I'm looking at more as Nunes. But on paper, I guess it would be Dio Jota because there was a space in our squad. And right now, Nunes would be replaced by Isak if you go off by the rumors, that's the guy that we were trying to sign. So, we don't generally buy players and have the guy in the squad that we're going to sell that's going to replace him. It doesn't normally work like that. So, um, from a business point of view as well, you want to try and generate the funds before you do that because let's say we bought Isak and Nunes was still in the squad, but for some reason we couldn't sell Nunes. Have we not just missed out on 50 million there? Like that could impact other sales or other signings that we're planning on doing in the same window because we haven't generated funds from that. What would have been smart was actually selling that player and then use that money to sign his replacement. So I think that's the right way to go. I feel like it's no point overloading the squad just because you want players to come in. The club might not have the finances to do that. The money coming from other sales will help with the facilitation of those new deals as well. So no, it's not FIFA. I feel like as fans, we sometimes forget how transfer work. It's not FIFA. It's not a computer game. Still says, why not see Chiesa instead of Diaz and Nunes? I think you mean why not use Diaz, Chiesa instead of Diaz and Nunes? Chiesa is not in line to replace either of those players. He's a current player, and we're going to sign a replacement for Diaz and Darwin Nunes. Chiesa is still, in my eyes, a backup for Salah in the squad, and that's his position right now. So I don't think Chiesa is going to be upgraded to replace Diaz or Nunes because that would be silly. Because a player that's not been utilized to replace two other players that were utilized heavily in the squad, that makes no sense to me. So no, that doesn't align at all for me. Oza Kamat says the opinions within the fan base are night and day. I prefer to stay level headed instead of going either way or either extreme. I agree. And you have to be like that because this is the reason why I do daily transfer shows because I could have ignored today and thought, oh, there's not much happening, but there's still discussions to be had. And I feel like, with certain transfers, it helps build up to that moment. Right now, fans are feeling frustrated, but all it takes is one bomber from one journalist to change someone's perception. If Fabrizio Romano dropped a bomber now that Newcastle are open to speaking with Liverpool and they're in talks to agree a deal in the region of 120 million, everyone's opinion today will just be invalid because of that whole bomber. Does that make sense? So the right approach is to be level-headed. Once the window closes, look, if we haven't signed those three players that I'm speaking about, then come on the show, let it all out. Because for me, I'm gonna go on a rant, just like you guys would as well. I'm not gonna be like, oh no, do you know what? I'm happy because they bought Verts and I'll be annoyed. I'm like, why on earth did you sell Diaz? Why did you sell Nunes? Why did you sell this guy and that guy and not bring anyone in? I would have the same tone or same energy as well. But I know the window is still here. The window has not closed. So we have time to address those positions. So we have to stay put. We have to stay calm, stay level headed, as Ozan Kabak mentioned, and just wait for those news and those, developments to gather. That's all I would say when it comes to transfer rumors. Roger painting me up yourself. He says, if somehow Liverpool don't sign Isak, then we have to blame Man United for taking Benjamin Sesko. If Newcastle got Sesko, then I am 100% sure today Isak would be a Liverpool player. I wouldn't blame on United because then I feel like we're giving them too much credit for ruining our deal. We got Ekatike before them, all right? That's the player they probably listed as their number one target. We got them. So let's not kill ourselves. We've peed them off, firstly, because we signed Ekatike. So that's why they're not willing to do business with us. If they had bought Ekatike, then they'll sell Isak to us quite quickly. But we already, shortlisted Ekatike as one of our striking options because we needed to address the squad a little bit more. We didn't have a lot of attackers in our current squad, so we needed to sign two strikers. And because of that, we got Ekatike first because we knew the valuation with Frankfurt, they weren't going to be silly with regards to that. And it was a smoother deal to conclude. Whereas with Newcastle, I'm not sure who they're trying to impress because they're trying to act like big boys right now, but they're not big boys. They might have rich owners, but those rich owners are not backing them in that way. So because of that, the fans are slightly deluded. They feel like they're bigger than what they are, and they feel like they can just, do what they want or say what they want. Right now, you've got a very frustrated player in Isak who has been promised a lot of things and promised that he'll get a move this summer, and those promises have been broken. If that's not the case, why is he not being fined for going AWOL or ignoring messages and not flying over to Singapore or not even being part of the preseason last weekend? Why is he not involved? If he was, being a rat or whatever people are calling him, or being that, dismissive about the club, why has he not been fined yet? The best they've done is to say to him, no, you got to train by yourself. and the narrative was that he might be injured as well. So, they're trying to protect him because they might end up having to keep him because of their stance that they don't want to do business. But in reality, they need to do business. If they want to add players to their squad, they need to do business with Liverpool because we will be the team that provides the finances for those deals. Right now, they don't have the money for the deals. Forget the money. They don't even have the pool. The money will help in that regards because then they'll just have to overpay some players or overpay the agents and all that sort of stuff to get deals overdone over the line. But right now they're not doing anything. They're not signing players, and that's not helping us because we're ready. We're holding that briefcase. We're waiting for that door to open for us to enter and say, "Boom, here's the bid. Take it or leave it," and they'll pretty much take it more than not. So I'm not gonna go with that narrative that because Sesko's gone there, it's ruined our deal. We've nicked their prime target. Sesko's probably their second target. It hasn't helped. I think it's just delayed it more than anything else. That's how I would look at it. I don't think it's completely poured the water on the deal. But you're saying if Isak doesn't sign, then maybe we'll have to reflect and say that could have been the defining factor. Possibly, but I'm not on that boat yet. So for me, until that doesn't happen, I'm not even going to think about that. So, you know, if that occurs, we'll speak about it after the window. I have faith that Liverpool will sign Isak in the end. Um, Stuart says should have sold Chiesa instead of Diaz and Nunes. Yeah, but how much money are you going to get for Chiesa? 10 million. How are we going to spend money if we've only got 10 million for Chiesa? That makes no sense. We still need money to buy players, right? I know I've mentioned that we've generated sales, but a large chunk of that is from the sales of Diaz and Nunes. Diaz and Nunes collectively has brought us 115 million pounds, which ironically would be the money that would go on to sign Alexander Isak, because that's the minimum that we'd have to pay in order to beat the British transfer record. So we've got the money for that. Those two sales are basically the reason why we're going to go for Isak in my eyes. That was the reason why we sold those two guys there to try and facilitate that move. Yeah, he's a 10 million. What's 10 million going to get me in this day and age? I can't even buy Leoni for that much. Leoni's going to cost about 40 million. So 10 million doesn't do anyone any good, in my opinion. So for me, it made perfect sense to sell Diaz and Darwin Nunes. Mazzy says Aussie Hugo looks like an absolute baller. Do you think he can make a big name for himself in the season, or does he need a lot of time to become a superstar? I don't think he needs a lot of time. I think if he's given plenty of game time this season, he can be that guy. I feel like he's at that level that and I'm not saying he's like those players. So just think about what I'm saying to you guys. So he's on the same level that Mane and Salah was when they came to the club. Mane had a great season for Southampton. When he came, the rocket went up and he was, on the verge of becoming a real top player. Salah had a phenomenal season at Roma where he was very clinical on the right wing for them and he came in and became a global superstar overnight. So with Ekitike, he's on that level where he's got the tools. It's just can he do it at the highest level, which is the Premier League? And I believe he can. I think he has the sort of the credentials. I think he has the ability and the skill set to do that going forward. So for me, he's got all the talent in the world, and I feel like he's going to be regarded as one of the best strikers in Europe in years to come. I feel like he's that kind of caliber. So we have to be fortunate, guys. We've got to feel that. We've got to feel lucky that we've got a striker like Ekitike in our team because that deal might not have happened, if we didn't make certain sales here and there. So let's give credit when due. And it feels like, some fans aren't giving those kind of credit to the owners. But, it is what it is. Like we'll see what everyone's saying after the window. Ratchet Penny says, how good is Giovanni Leoni and would you sign him or Marc Guehi? Hold that thought. We'll speak about those two players very, very shortly. I've got them listed on the show today in terms of the agenda. Um, Stuart said we need at least two strong teams, but we currently have just one or so what happens? Wait, sorry, I have to read that again. We need at least two strong teams, but we currently have just one. So what happens during injury or one player has a run of poor form? I just hope Liverpool know what they're doing. We need stronger backup. We haven't signed the backup. We are we are going to sign them. Has the window closed? Am I missing something here? Has the window closed? It hasn't. We have to be patient, guys. Honestly, in terms of the second team, we don't have defenders. That's the only area that I have a concern. But we do have a second team, and maybe the attackers will tell a lie. We don't have the right depth there. But as I mentioned, Diaz will be replaced, Nunes will be replaced, and Marc Guehi will be replaced. So make it what you will. Come back to me in 3 weeks' time, and then if it's the same thing, then we'll have a chat about it. All I can say at this point, Ozzy should just let Stewards call in. To be honest with you, like I would love to, but I've already done nearly an hour of the show, and I've only spoken about one rumor. I've still got 5 more rumors to go through today. So uh, if I let people call in, I feel like it's gonna prolong the show. And yeah, I wasn't planning on doing a 2-3 hour show today. So but I have promised you guys when the window closes, we will have a dedicated calling show. So be on the lookout for that. And then everyone is more than welcome to come on and have this in. I'll give everyone the platform to speak their mind. I won't, give you a countdown of 3 minutes. You can speak for as long as you need to. And then, yeah, we'll have a civilized conversation once the window concludes. So, yeah, we'll see what happens until then. Stuart says, if we need to sell before we buy, then we are broke. Man United finished 15th. They are spending big without having to sell. We should not overhype our owners. They are purely doing business with us. Not necessarily. Of course, we've let's not forget how much money we spent, guys. We spent 100 on throwing verts. We spent about 40 on Kirkhead. We spent 30 on Fring Pong. We spent 70 on Ekatike. Are you telling me that's not enough money that we spent? So we're trying to sign another player for a record 120, 130 million. No one's got 400 million pounds in the bank like that. So you still have to make sales. It's PSR, guys. You have to balance the books. That's how it works. If we don't balance the books, then we're gonna have issues. Right now, Liverpool are a very well run club. If we just spend all of our money and go down to zero and not make any sales, we're doomed. So let's think logically here. We have the money. You're using United as a comparison. They are below us. Let's not forget that. We obtained twice the amount of points as them last season. Just because they've signed a few decent players that we all know doesn't mean they're world beaters all of a sudden. That's not how football works. So I don't even know why United are in the conversation right now. Honestly, they are not on the same wavelength as us. But if you think they are, that is your opinion. But for me, I don't even see them as a rival. They are past my rear view. They really are. They're not even in my vision right now because they're not that club anymore. We have a rivalry, yes, but that's because of history, not because of current times. So for me, yeah, they're irrelevant right now, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Seriously, you're funny, Ozen. Yeah. Look, I would love to get people on, but I've been rambling on about, all sorts right now for the last hour, and I've only just done one rumor. So, yeah, let me finish the agenda, and then we'll do. I think calling shows will do a lot more next year in terms of, the transfer one. I'll definitely do with you guys. And if you're not familiar with the format of my shows, um, match reactions, we normally do a calling for that. So generally, what I do is after the match, I do a show late in the evening, similar time slot as to today. So I normally do my show at 10, 11, and that's the platform for everyone to call in. Um, and I'm planning on having another show where it's going to be like a Premier League roundup, but it'll be more Liverpool focused, if that makes sense. And with that, I'll have content creators come on, hopefully, and we might do calling show for that. But match reaction, 100%, that is a show for everyone to call in. So if it becomes a bit of a theme where the viewers, as in yourselves, would like me to have a dedicated calling show, once a month or something, that can be something that I can do for you guys. But that's the feedback you guys have to give me. If you want a dedicated calling show, I can do that. No problem. We can schedule that once a month. And then yeah, we can have, our opinions on certain things. Of course, transfer season, we have a lot more to say, right? But once it comes to matches, it'll be done on a per game sort of rota, I guess, isn't it? So yeah, lots of content. So yeah, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Um, Raz, big up Raz. He says if Rodrygo becomes available, should we challenge Man City to get him because he's a very talented player. He is a talented player, but for me, I don't know, maybe because of the link to Barcola, that's the guy I want, and that's the guy I've been speaking about for a few weeks now. And I feel like he's the one that will make the difference in our squad. So that's the one I want. Um, but I don't know. It's a funny one. I feel like he would be swayed by Man City in terms of going over there. But for me, I don't know. If he was to be a Liverpool player, I wouldn't be annoyed about it. But I just feel like we need to sign a winger that has similarity to Diaz in terms of their output. So someone that is aggressive on the ball, attacks behind the defense, stretches teams with their speed and their directness. I need that type of player. Whereas Rodrygo is a technical player. He's more of a ball to feet player. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think we need that type of profile. I need someone that overtakes, the fullback and goes on mazy runs and scores goals. And I think I want that kind of dynamic player. So for me, Barcola is that profile in my mind. And I think the club will probably, have the same wavelength there. Um, Rodrigo is a quality player, but I don't know if he ticks our boxes. So that's probably why we haven't gone over to that next step to try and make an approach for him. But you never know because we have been linked to him for quite some time. We might just be biding our time. But let's see what happens. Um, Stuart says we don't need to sign backups. The players that left should have been our backups. Let's stop defending the owners. We are supposed to add to what we have, not dismantle a title winning team. So you're just telling me the players that we had should be the backups and we should just buy players on top. Have we hit the lottery or something? How are we just finding the funds for that kind of thing? Let me remind you, the signings that we made, would you not regard them as upgrades to what we currently have? Because none of those players, apart from Frimpong, have replaced anyone in the squad. So think of that as well. And I don't want Darwin Núñez as my backup striker. That's my opinion. I don't want it. That was not my thinking what throughout this summer. That's not the player I wanted as a backup. So yes, they were a title winning team, but those players for me had areas that needed refinement. So that's why you go for someone else that has a better skill set. And that's what Liverpool are currently doing. Kirk replacing Robertson because Robertson is on decline, in my opinion. You may agree, you may disagree. I don't know. But I don't think Robertson's that guy anymore. Trent decided to leave. So there's a space there. Frimpong came in and filled that void. Verts came into the squad as an addition because we lacked that creative number 10. So Bosley, as dynamic as he is, isn't the guy. He's not got that sort of eye of the needle passes in him, and we need that type of profile to unlock stubborn defenses. That's what Verts was doing yesterday against Crystal Palace. So for me, he's the player that ticks a lot of boxes, and I feel like we're underestimating his value. The kid is one of the best players in his position in the world, so let's not forget that. And Ekitike, he's one of the most promising strikers in Europe right now and he's come in and right now he's replaced Nunes because we haven't got a striker. And for me, he's already an upgrade to Nunes. On paper, he's basically replaced Jota, but because we haven't got a Darwin Nunes replacement, I'm going to look at it in that kind of shape, that shape and form. And for me, he's already an upgrade on Nunes. So your same player should be backup, but which team stockpiles players like that? If you're using United reference, then that's on you because they stockpile because they got shit players in their team. When you got shit players in your team, you whoever you add looks better than what they have anyway. So it wasn't a hard challenge for them to add better players. They already had shit players in their teams. That's the difference there. We had good players. We had a Premier League winning team. That's the difference there. So just think about the narrative in terms of what you're painting, because I don't feel like you're understanding my points here, and you're trying to assume that we just have money coming through our ears. That's not how it works, unfortunately. Delu Steve says, Oz, how do you stay so positive and objective? I'm too much when it comes to Liverpool. I feel I've been on a rant today, but it's just because different people are giving me different thoughts and stuff, and I've not really, you know, looked at it that way. And I'm feeling like fans are getting agitated for no reason. Like it makes no sense to me. So I'm normally quite a chilled, quite a laid back individual. I'm level headed when it comes to football opinions. But obviously, I'm emotional as well. I'm a Liverpool fan, right? We're all emotional at some to some extent. So I'm passionate about my team. So I know that we're in the right pathway. I know that we're going to get those players. I'm not guaranteeing. I'm not an ITK. I'm not anything of that nature. But what we've done so far, I'm so sure that we have a strategy in mind and we have players lined up. Once the window closes, then we have an opinion. If they haven't been addressed, then yeah, you might not see me as positive as I am or as I have been this summer. The narrative will change. I'm not just going to be over positive because we're Liverpool and I just expect it to be like that. If I'm annoyed, I will express that frustration. So right now, I'm positive. I'm level-headed to think that Liverpool are doing work behind the scenes. It's just that we don't know it. We can't see it right now because it's not been unveiled. So we'll just have to wait and see in terms of what Liverpool do in the end. Uh, Stu said, Raz Rodrygo must not go to Man City or else we are done for another 4 years. I disagree with that. Rodrigo's not that kind of player, in my opinion. With Jota's demise, all we needed to do as well was sell Chiesa, then replace both of them with Isak and Ekatike with Gakpo, Nunes, and Diaz as backup forward lines. Diaz wasn't happy. You have to read the room. He wasn't happy with his current contract. He wanted to leave. He's voiced it for months. So when a player's not happy, you can't force the guy to stay. He wanted to move on. So the Diaz one, you've got to put it that way. With Nunes, we pretty much told Nunes, you're not the guy. You're not the guy that's going to lead us to the glory days. So we need to move you on in order to accommodate an Isak and an Ekatike. So that's why he was sold. So you have to understand every player has their own situation, and you've got to put context into it as well. Diaz did not want to stay. He wanted to leave because he wasn't getting the money he deserved. That was the end of that topic there. So we can't keep a player just because he's annoyed. That's not how it works, unfortunately. Ra says Van Dijk is 34 and looks like he's dropping his level a bit. Are you concerned about his form for the season, or will he step up from the rustiness of preseason? Look, in terms of yesterday's performance, he had a poor game. I'm not going to be like, oh, he was fantastic. He wasn't. He was diabolical yesterday. He was the reason why we conceded those 2 goals. But context, guys, context has to be put into this discussion here. The guy was ill for about a week, so he's probably not recovered fully in that way. So he's not trained with the squad. He's not fully, in line with the other team members. I'm so sure that Van Dijk is going to deliver for us this season. There is no decline. Just because he made a few errors here and there, he's human, guys. I know he's been invincible over the years, but he will make errors here and there. It happens. It's part of the game. It's football. So for people to suggest, he's written off already, I think it's premature. I really do. The season hasn't even begun, and we're writing off our own players. Like, come on, guys, make it make sense. But for me, he will step it up. I am very much sure. And it's like you said, the word rustiness. That is it. Players are trying to regain their fitness right now. Not every player looks 100 miles per hour right now or 100% fit and ready. Players are still trying to find their rhythm, their flow within the team. Players are being brought into clubs. They're trying to, form partnerships and relations with these players. So, it's a work in progress, guys. This is why it's pre-season. You have to keep that in mind. But, fans will have their opinions, I guess. Stuart says Florian is more of a Trent replacement because Trent is our best passer and playmaker. His departure meant a change of pattern of play for us. That's why Florian was brought in. Yeah, to an extent, I agree with that, but we lacked that finishing touch in front of goal. Are you telling me you were completely happy with Szoboszlai's output? Because I'm one of Szoboszlai's biggest fans, but I said it out loud last season. He didn't, deliver in terms of goals and assists, and he lacked that intricate passing. All he did was always pass it to Salah. That was his instruction all the time. So, um, for me, it was an area that I definitely felt like we needed to strengthen, but you know, it was regarded as the top of their agenda, which I wasn't expecting. So Verts, yes, replaces the end product, the passing element to it. But of course, he's not a right back. He's not gonna. We're not. He's not going to be in a deep position and whip balls in, is he? We're gonna have a different dynamic. So, um, for me, yes, to an extent, but not entirely. I'm gonna have to move on to the next rumors, guys, because yeah, I'm going through a lot of the comments. So let's go on to the next rumor, and that is, let's see if I can put on the screen. Uh, Isak, the guy we've been talking about. So the current development, there's not been much, if I'm being brutally honest, guys, but I will read out a tweet for you guys. Uh, and this is the tweet. So this was on Anfield Sector, but it's been quoted from Fabrizio Romano. And the info is that as long as the deal for Isak remains alive, as they wait for Newcastle's decision. The Reds wait and prepare their strategy as the Swedish striker also insists on playing at Anfield this upcoming season. But Newcastle have the ball in their court. This is why Liverpool discussed internally about alternatives, and Barcola is considered as one of the best players in the world by Liverpool. So I can see why fans are slightly concerned by that, but for me, the notion is that that the deal is not dead, if that makes sense. There should be some hope. The hope is still alive, guys. The deal is not, it's not been swept away. The saga is not over. It will unfortunately prolong, which is not what everyone wants to hear, but it will happen, eventually. So for me, just gotta be patient, guys. I feel like we're going to get some sort of development. Or worst case scenario, we're going to place that bid and we're going to test the waters to see if Newcastle are about it, if they're going to be willing to talk business, because we're not just going to be talking and not doing anything. We're not in that kind of mode. We're being polite, we're being lawful in this kind of moment, but eventually we are going to place that bid. And if that bid gets rejected, it is what it is. So at least we know that we tried to sign him and then we move on if it doesn't happen. But I don't think that's going to be the outcome. I think Liverpool will sign Alexander Isak. And so yeah, that's my theory. That's my vision right now. So let's see what happens regarding Isak. Now let's move on to Marc Guehi. So regarding Marc Guehi, let me see if I can bring the tweet up. Let's see. There we go. So this is from Fabrizio Romano again. So this is a quote from Crystal Palace chairman Steve Perish. So this is what he said about Mark Gay. He said, of course, for players of that caliber to leave on a free, it is a problem. It needs a new contract or a conclusion of some kind. And it's common knowledge that Gay won't sign a new deal and exit in final 20 days is likely. So for me, that gives me a bit of optimism that a deal can be done for Mark Gahey. The stumbling block, as it has been for the last few weeks, if you didn't know, is the transfer fee. Crystal Palace value him at £50 million. Liverpool value him at £40 million. So we are 10 million off the mark. And some will say, why don't you just pay that 10 million? If you have a valuation for the player, you don't normally go above your budget or your valuation, if that makes sense. But I think in the end, Liverpool and Palace will do a compromise and maybe a deal of around 40 to 45 million will be agreed. And I think that will be enough to get the player over the line. But let me know in the chat if you agree or disagree. Let's see what your thoughts are. Now, moving on to the next player. Actually, before I even do that, I'm not sure if everyone saw this in the game yesterday, but you saw Arne Slot, saying hello to Mark Gay and give him a high five of some sort there. Um, that embrace basically just means to me that you know Arsenal's telling him, I'll see you in training soon. That's what it feels like. I'll see you soon. That's what it feels like to me. So I might be looking at it a bit too differently, but I expect Mark Gay to be a Liverpool player at some point as well. So let's move on to Giovanni Leoni. Now, the current rumor, and it's an interesting one, is that Liverpool are really considering internally to sign Giovanni Leoni. And Fabrizio Romano said his prediction is that Liverpool will sign Giovanni Leoni. Now, I've watched quite a few compilations of the player. I have been hugely impressed in terms of, despite being 18 years of age, he's mature beyond his years. He's very physical. has a great IQ, understands the game very well. He reads the game immaculately. Um, his passing is very good for a player of his level. When I say level, I'm saying he's only played 17 senior games. So for that level of experience, he's definitely shown some good quality in his opening season for Parma. So for me, I know Liverpool don't tend to buy Italian defenders, and to the history of Italian players not being a great success in the Premier League, but maybe this is a unicorn defender here. Maybe this is one of a kind, one that is very unique and special, and maybe we've got someone else that could be regarded as one of the greats in years to come. I'm going a bit far fetched there, but he's got huge potential. Um, so I feel like if Liverpool can get this over the line, I would love for it to be Marc Guehi and Leoni. That would be the perfect scenario where you've pretty much solidified the current defensive department, but you've also future-proofed our successor to Van Dijk in Leoni there, who for me has the capability of being that type of player in the future. So let's wait and see. Keep our fingers crossed, and let's see, if Liverpool can get that player over the line. Um, Now, moving on to the next rumor. Actually, before I do that, I saw this stat earlier on that really caught my eye. So this is just one element of his game in terms of aerial duels won last season in the top 7 leagues, and look who's at number one. It's Leone. And if you look at the other players around him, you've got the likes of Euro. You've got in terms of for millionaires, you've got Sa, who's a Chelsea player, I believe. You've got Hoyson, who's of course gone to Real Madrid now. Kubasi, who's the next guy um, to be the heart of the defense at Barcelona, and then you've got Leone at the top there. So good indication in terms of a player potential there. Whether it happens this window or not remains to be seen. I've seen some fans saying that we should sign him and then loan him out to Parma for one more season. I get it in terms of why that would be the narrative, but if we're signing, I want him right now because we don't have the numbers in our squad. So added into the squad, I feel like he will get some, level of game time. Uh, if not, then maybe that is a deal that we could do. But I really hope that we do get Leone because he does look like a special talent. Uh, Now, moving on to the next rumor, it's regarding Kostas Tsimikas. Now, a lot of fans were surprised that he was not part of the squad yesterday, but the reasons being is because he's got a lot of interest right now. There's teams in the Premier League, one in particular is Nottingham Forest, who are showing the strongest interest right now. They really want to sign the Greek defender, and he's got interest from other clubs across Europe. So for me, the writing's on the wall. It looks like he will be the player that moves on from Liverpool. Ironically, I think 2 days ago was 5 years since he joined Liverpool, so it was like his 5-year anniversary. So I think it's the right time for him to move on. I think he's been a great player for us. Of course, he's not been a first starter or for that duration, but he's always been a player that can be relied upon, and whenever called upon, he was definitely a player that delivered and produced some good performances for us. So I wish him the best. He seems like a great character as well, but I do feel like he will be leaving very soon. But we'll probably be seeing him in the Premier League in some shape or form. And the next room and the final room of today is Harvey Elliott. Um, so the current one in terms of the rumor, let me bring out the tweet that I saw earlier on today. Um, this is it. So no real huge update, but internally, I think Harvey Elliott has accepted his fate in terms of not being a regular starter for Liverpool under Arne Slot. Red Bull Leipzig are the current favourites to sign the 22-year-old, who's also attracted interest from Spurs and West Ham. So we're getting some conflicting reports. Some are saying that Red Bull Leipzig are the front runners, but also suggesting that Tottenham might be in heavy pursuit of him as well. And it does make sense from a Tottenham point of view because Son has just left. He's joined LAFC, and Madison has just picked up a serious injury as well, so he could be out for a large part of the season. So therefore, they don't really have a number 10. Kulusevski can play there. I remember seeing him playing certain games there last season. but maybe going for a Harvey Elliott who's young and a bit more sort of fresh when it comes to the way he plays and could have a great impact in that team. So remains to be seen where he goes. And I've said it before, I think with Elliott, it depends on what he wants. If he's willing to move over to a different league like the Bundesliga and showcase his talent there, then I think Red Bull Leipzig is a great move for him. It suits his skill set. We're playing in a league that's a bit more slower in terms of the physicality and the intensity of the league. And I feel like it suits the way he plays very well. Or he might just want to stay in London, or should I say London? Should I say stay in the Premier League where he returns to London and plays for a team that are very established. They are a team that will be playing in the Champions League this season. And of course, we've got a big stadium, good fan base. So, ticks all the boxes in that narrative there. So it's an interesting proposal. Where does he go? Red Bull Leipzig or Tottenham? So it remains to be seen in terms of where Harvey ends up. But I am pretty sure, unfortunately, that he will be leaving Liverpool, which is a shame because, he's a boyhood red. He's living his dream, playing for Liverpool. But unfortunately, the time is coming to an end for the young star there. And that is all of the rumors. I'm just going to go through some of the comments before we close the show. Let me see. Ratchet Painting says, if we get Isak and Guehi and a bonus like Barcola, then we will have the best chance to win the big trophies. 100% agreed. Stuart says the hype about our signings was because everyone thought they were going to play with the existing players. Was why we dreamt of winning all the trophies, but now nobody's seeing it that way. I'm not seeing it the way you're seeing it. I think you're probably a minority. If people disagree with that, let me know in the chat. But I never saw it as that. I saw those players as upgrades to our team, and I knew that if we're signing Ekitike, he's coming to replace one of our attackers. If we're signing Isak, he's coming in to replace one of our attackers. If we're signing a wide player, it's to replace Diaz. So for me, it's never been about have 25 players right now and add 10 more players on top. That doesn't make sense either. So no, I never thought of it that way. You seem quite disappointed with the window, which I'm a little bit surprised because I don't know what window you were expecting from us. This is probably one of our best windows in our history, if I'm being honest with you. But you're entitled to opinion. I don't completely agree with it. Deleu Steve says, Oz, has your expectations changed from a quad to simply defending the Prem as a measure of success? Um, At the minute, I still feel like we can challenge for the league. I think we can challenge for the Champions League. But in terms of the quad, that's always going to be a very optimistic target. Now, if we sign Isak, Gay, Leoni, and Barcola, then I'm gonna be sure to say we are winning the quad. I don't think that's gonna happen, guys. Look, as much as I want it to happen, even if we have the finances, those deals don't happen, so quickly in that kind of manner. So let's see how we end, and I'll give you my energy when the window closes, and I'll show you or present in terms of what I think Liverpool should be doing and what I aim for my club to do next season. But right now, I think the goal is just to manage to defend the Premier League title, but I still feel like we have the quality to challenge for other titles. But remember, guys, the squad's not complete. So once it's not complete, we can't really have too much energy, whether it's high or low. We just have to wait. We have to be patient, guys. Honestly, 3 more weeks until the window closes. It's not closed yet. So I don't know why there's so much negativity. It bewilders me, honestly. Um, let's go to the next one. So Bosley doesn't need to do much because Trent was in the team. The role of the number 10 in the current team is different from what that was of last season team. So Bosley doesn't need to do much because of Trent. He had to cover that guy's ass throughout the whole game. What are you on about? So Bosley couldn't play his game because of Trent. We had to facilitate Trent's passing in the team. Konate couldn't be solely focused on being a centre back because he had to play right back at times. So Bosley had to drop deep to cover Trent's run, whether he's going down the byline or if he's exploring through the middle. So Bosley had to adapt his game to accommodate him. He didn't have to do to the narrative that he didn't have to do much because of Trent. Trent wasn't superior to Szoboszlai. Our tactics were based around Trent's passing. but other players had to do a shift. 2 years ago, Henderson had to do the same job as well. That's why we call it the Hendo shift, because you have to cover Trent's arse in terms of covering for him, because he doesn't track back. When he goes forward, he's very slow in returning back to his normal position. That's why I'm loving the fact that we have Frimpong in our team, because the guy has recovery pace. He'll run back and make sure he's in the defense to help out his teammates. Trent didn't do that, so unfortunately, I disagree with you there as well. I don't see it in that narrative at all. Ozan Kabak says, bro, we desperately need Guehi because we've just sold our fourth choice centre back to Nottingham Forest, Kostas Tsimikas. Has that been official? I thought it was just a rumor for today. Let's see. But I think your post was saying it's on the verge of happening. I'm assuming, right? But um, yeah, it looks like he's heading over there. So it's a shame. But yeah, uh, we really need to get some centre backs. That's my concern. Uh, more than anything else, maybe even slightly more than the striking role, because I know we have Ekatika, so we should be fine in that regards. But the defense, we've only got Ibu and Virgil, so that is a huge concern for me going forward. Um, but yeah, I have faith that we'll have enough numbers where we won't need to think about Simicans being a fourth choice centre back again. So let's see what happens in the course of the next few weeks. Ratchet Painting says, Guy, the host, has excellent football knowledge. If he is right and we sign Alexander Isak, then let's support the brother to grow his channel to become bigger and better. Appreciate your kind words, but I'd hope you support me if we don't get Isak as well. I don't want it to be where, if I get that prediction wrong, you guys don't support me. Um, I'm just as much of a fan as you guys, so I will get things wrong, here and there. But with this one, I'm confident. I just have that gut feeling that we'll get him. So, whether we do or not, remains to be seen. But, I do appreciate, your support there. Um, this is the bro landing all four of those names is a pipe dream. It is. That's what I said to you guys. I don't think it's realistic, but based on rumors and links, if we were to get all of those names there, then I'm saying quad. Without any shadow of a doubt, I'm saying quad. But if we don't sign, because that way we have the complete squad, there's no room for excuses if we get those players. But if we don't address all of the areas, then you can't say quad with chest, if that makes sense. But I'll give you that prediction once the window closes. I'll promise you that prediction will be pretty much landing after the window is closed. I was like, I say, Robbo as fourth choice centre back now. Yep, he's the guy now. He is the guy. Van Dijk, Ibu, Vitaro, Robbo, that is the current crop, unfortunately. So that's the concern for me. And that's why I've said that we need two new centre backs in our squad. So John Gomez, for me, has to be regarded as a bonus player to our squad. He's not, for me, a solidified sort of play in our squad because we can't rely on him due to unavailability. So that's a concern for me next season. But let's see what happens. I feel like we will adjust those positions in due time, but only time will tell. And speaking of time, it is the end of the show. So thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. Great conversations always. And of course, guys, there will be times where I don't agree with your comments and vice versa. As long as you do it in a civilized way, that is how football debates should take place. So appreciate everyone's contribution today. So shout out to, let's go from the top, Ozen Kabak, to Stuart, to Deluded Steve, to Mazzy, to Ratchet Painting. Who else do we have? To Raz. Um, I think that's everyone. So big up to you guys. Appreciate you guys sending your comments. Appreciate you guys being part of the show. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming show, I'm hoping to do another transfer show tomorrow. Hopefully, some further developments. Hopefully, something that will put us all in a better mood, whether it's breaking news or some sort of developments in our pursuit with Gehi or Isak or Leoni, one of those names, hopefully, it puts us in a better mood. But, those things don't happen just on a daily basis. We just have to sit tight and, wait for those developments to occur. And yeah, then we'll have another show on Wednesday. Then we'll go back to our normal sort of seasonal proceedings where we will do our match previews. And Friday is a big one. So Liverpool versus Bournemouth. We'll be doing a live watch along for that game, and then we'll do a match reaction show, hopefully straight after as well. So if you'd like to call in, that is a platform for you to do so. Hit that link, and then I will get you on the show in due course. Just got a couple of comments there before we close. Delusive says, "Thanks for lifting my spirits even a little bit. Appreciate you, Delusive. Thank you for your comment there." And Double D said, big up, Double D. I hope you're doing well. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.